Hello, my name is Kelly Eric, and I will be presenting on how librarians can support families and children of transracial adoptions. Transracial adoption means a child is being raised by parents of a different race or ethnicity than their own. The majority of adoptive parents, 73%, are white, and they tend to be middle or upper class, living in predominantly white communities. Transracial adoptions also include transnational adoptions, which means a child is adopted from another country. The majority of transnational adoptions are from Asia. Transracial adoptions represent only a portion of all adoptions, 40%, but that is still 700,000 children. Despite the small number, their experience highlights complex societal issues of racism and the development of cultural, racial, and ethnic identity. The most obvious way librarians and educators can support these families is by selecting and suggesting authentic materials that mirror their experience. In order to do that, it is essential for librarians to understand the adoption experience. The majority of adopted children are physically and emotionally healthy, but they will also experience grief, a sense of abandonment, and a need to mourn the loss of their birth parents. For transracially adopted children, the experience is compounded by issues regarding the formation of an ethnic identity. For example, a Black child will have to learn from his white parents what it means to be a Black man, a member of the African American community, as well as how to deal with racism. While parenting resources recommend that adoptive parents nurture their child's birth culture, there's ultimately a limitation on how much a parent can teach a child about a culture different from their own. Ideally, the family would become a hybrid family. The adoptive parents immerse themselves in the child's birth culture, just as the child is immersed in their adoptive parents' culture. The children are exposed to adults, and children have real relationships with people of their own ethnicity or race. However, most children end up having an ambivalent sense of ethnic in-betweenness. As one research paper put it, they are too white to be Korean and too Korean to be white. Now that we have a basic understanding of the adoption experience and some of its issues, we can begin to select authentic materials. Some of these resources can be used as bibliotherapy, turning the loss of birth parents in the adoption into a unique origin story. Others may be informational, a how-to guide on dealing with moments of racism. Materials for children should be age-appropriate. Children understand adoption, ethnicity, and race differently depending on their age, but the big questions about identity surfacing in adolescence. Materials for both children and parents should cover the adoption experience, how to handle racism, should show a positive portrayal of diverse family structures. Books on grief and loss may be helpful for these families, as well as resources about a specific culture or ethnicity. Although we should keep in mind that culture is best taught by members of that culture. A parent's or librarian's best attempt to understand, teach, or portray a culture different from their own may still result in superficial cultural tourism, even if unintentional. As librarians, we must be self-aware of our own attitudes, prejudices, and cultural biases, and we must understand white privilege. Sonia Dwyer notes that transracially adopted children are isolated from their racial communities, experience greater pressure to assimilate, face more stereotyping, are more visible, and are more vulnerable to institutional racism. Elements to look for in authentic adoption materials include stories that portray the variety of adoption scenarios. Materials should avoid the idea of the white savior. A child is not lucky to be adopted. She's not being saved. Adoption is a complex, ambivalent experience of both loss and love. All children are lucky to have loving families. If possible, find literature that portrays the birth parents in a positive manner. Finally, by developing culturally competent programs and library resources, librarians show children that they matter, that they are important. Of course, the most powerful mirror is that of another person who is racially or ethnically the same as you. For the transracially adopted child growing up in a family who does not look like them, seeing positive mirrors of themselves elsewhere, like at the library, can be very important.